I am a mother of 3 children first and foremost, before anything else, which takes up a lot of space, and I am a Cacao facilitator. When I returned home from Australia with my 2 babies in 2015, we came home with like a dream, but when we got here we were met with like soaring rent prices and just a different world to what we imagined. So it was a really like rough period first, and I was just really into like feeding my kids really good food. And I had this vision of myself pouring chocolate. It was almost like a dream state, but it wasn't quite a dream. Later on that year, I went to Australia by myself for an event. A woman spoke on stage about Cacao and how it came to her when she was like homeless, and it was like something in me was like, oh my God, she's speaking exactly what had happened for me. And then when I came home to Ireland after that trip, I went to my first ceremony and learned a little bit about Keith at that. And same thing, how there was one seed, and everyone I heard talking about the Cacao was that it kind of pulls you along. It like calls on you. And that was what resonated so deeply. And so I kept going back for the ceremonies every 2 weeks. After a period of time, I started to really notice that there was my own unique calling coming through with it. Like the way in which Cacao was being held, I felt was very exclusive. It was exclusive and it was reserved for a certain type of person. Like I really knew, just because like I would be having my morning Cacao and I would have like my newborn baby breastfeeding and my 2-year-old and my 4-year-old, and like we would be at home all day. I couldn't guarantee I could have a half an hour of stillness. There was no guarantees when I had my Cacao what way my practice would go when I have these 3 really small dependent children. So I suppose it's like I really just understood that yes, it can enhance and take you onto the spiritual path, but if it's reserved, it's missing out on a whole world of people that could absolutely benefit from it. So then it's not spiritual, it's human, you know? So I feel like yes, it deepens your spiritual journey, but I don't think it's reserved for those only on a spiritual journey or even seeking a spiritual journey. You know, it's a beautiful addition to the human body, which we all have. The reason I adore a morning routine is because it's the only time I can guarantee that the world is asking nothing from me. It's like time that I can fully be with myself without any part of me having to be a little bit like slightly alert as to something is going to come in and pull me away from this practice. It's almost like it's the guarantee that you can be alone and present with yourself. And I really value that. Well, actually we have a version of it for school mornings where I actually take my Cacao in the car. And before we drive, we set an intention. And because I think ceremony is a state of being. So, and because my life warrants me to believe that, you know, I do believe it. I think I get myself into a state of ceremony even when I have my Cacao for the drive to school, because we have a 40-minute drive. But what was really beautiful about it was when my kids were starting school, and you know the real apprehension and nerves they have of on the way to school that they'll have to leave mommy. And what we used to do was, this is what really taught me that ceremony was a state of being, that I would take the Cacao in the car and I would have a sip and they would each have a sip. And I would say, now the Cacao is with us all for today. So when we miss each other, when we're separated, when we're in our day, when we're playing with our friends and we're not together, we can feel that it's inside of our tummies now. And we can remember that we're all connected by this Cacao that's within us. And they loved that so much, and it really anchored them into this feeling of like, oh yeah, we have this special thing.